How do hackers exploit vulnerabilities?
Every system has the ability to be managed remotely and controlled remotely. Now, what hackers do is they take advantage of bad settings or simply settings that have been ignored in order to work their way in and collect information or data from your organization or about your organization. Now, the way that they do this is by either exploiting the user directly through something like an email. This is click here to do whatever, save something. That actually runs a back-end piece of code that takes advantage of that user's permissions in order to gain access to your system. Now, good hackers typically do this invisibly so that you really cannot tell that they're there. So, you'll get an email that says click here and, it takes you to what looks like a legitimate site. But what it's actually done in the background is deployed a script or some piece of code that is designed to open a hole for that hacker to get more information out of your network or to steal data from either that employee or from other systems on your network. Now, the way that our system operates is under an environment that's called authorize only. So instead of having large communication holes where pretty much any kind of traffic can transit between a user or an application and the rest of the network, we have very stringent requirements that detect whether or not the application has been modified, that detect whether or not the application is allowed to communicate to a particular other device. So if you open Internet Explorer and you attempt to talk to a database, it's simply not going to be allowed. What this allows us to do is lock the environment down and harden it and respond to any kind of circumstances where an application or a user is attempting to do something that is not explicitly authorized. Now, the reason we're able to do that is because we use the artificial intelligence to ensure that all of the settings in all of our systems are absolutely correct. And we're able to use the AI in order to monitor what level of communication an application needs before we actually deploy it. So that once that application is in a production environment, it's not generating tons of false positives that we as people have to respond to and say, yeah, that's not actually a legitimate response. A good comparison of how this is actually operating is like the locks that you tend to put in your office. Most individuals will put locks on the outside of their office, and if they're dealing with highly secured data, they'll put locks on the inside of their office so that certain employees can only have access to certain kinds of information. Now, a firewall is just the lock on the outside of the organization, and it doesn't stop someone from leaving. What our system is like having security guards standing at every door within your organization, making sure that anything that comes in and anything that goes out is absolutely allowed. And if it detects any component that is not explicitly allowed, it responds to that automatically by initially blocking that traffic and then asking either a more advanced user, such as business director, whether or not that information should be allowed to exit the organization.